Call this meeting, this regular board meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners to order. And let's start off, let's see if anybody has any announcements for the good of the body to start off with.
It's all staff.
That's true. All right, well, very good. Well, now is the time. Yes. Speak now, or yeah, okay. All right. Any public comments? Has anybody showed up for public comment today? Please. Yeah, absolutely.
He's barely public. He's almost staff.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Calvin Cupp. I'm the director of the downtown aquatic facility and the head coach for Shaka Rowing. And last month, when we had the park board meeting, it had been a while since I'd been here, so I just wanted to say thank you for all the support we get. And then again, it's going to sound like I'm doing the same thing because I really am. A week and a half ago was the Wichita Frostbite Regatta, which is hosted by the Wichita Rowing Association, and we play a support role in that. It was a very successful regatta with athletes from 10 different states. There are 28 competing teams and 330 entries for the various events. And it's quite an undertaking, and again, that's an area where we really appreciate Parks and Rec. While it's not an event that we host itself, and we're just a support group for our program, our student athletes, and our community all benefit from that. So I just wanted to make sure that I again express my appreciation for y'all's support with that, whether it's helping clean some debris out of the river or making sure the park is ready for us, or the cooperation you have with the Wichita Rowing Association. It's a really great event for our community, and I know, especially when we look at travel costs for our student athletes, to have such a quality event here in Wichita that we don't have to run the day-to-day of and all the prep work for. That's a really great experience for our student athletes and a great benefit for our program. And I just want to say thank you again for y'all's support with that and the behind-the-scenes contributions that y'all make to make these type of events happen, because they really do impact a wide number of people and a diversity of people.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions for our speaker? Oh, Troy?
So a couple of things I just wanted to add on to that. First of all, the Wichita Rowing Association is a great partner, and we worked with them on adding their boathouse over at that location. It's going great, but they're just a great partner. They also paid for it, installed a new dock, which is used by a lot of different folks from the public. Second is, I just want to showcase this as not just one, but of many, many, many other things that have a huge economic impact in the community. As Coach was talking about, 10 different states were represented, and I think he had 600.
I'm not sure on the exact count for a number of athletes, but I would imagine it would definitely be over 500, just looking at the number of entries and the number of type of events, because one entry may be a one-person boat, but one entry may also be an 8-person, which are 9 people.
Well, I'm going to go with 600.
That sounds really good. I like that number.
So obviously they're here to compete, but they got to have a place to sleep, they got to have a place to eat, they got to buy some gas, they got to go to the dollar store and pick something up, whatever. Just the economic impact is huge. And we're doing more and more of these type of events that the Parks and Recreation is a part of. So whether it's running races that use parkland, whether it's special events, whether we work with Visit Wichita, whether it's items or events that are out at Stryker, these are all events that Parks and Recreation is a part of or supports, and a lot of people just don't think about Parks and Recreation having an economic impact, but I would say that we have a pretty strong impact on that area. So I know whenever we host items such as over at the ice rink in regards to hockey tournaments, whether they're doing the larger event that's over at in Trust Arena, they're using our ice rink, and they're bringing in people from out of town, and we're going to see more of this as we move forward in the future.
Sure. And if I could just add one thing, kind of tying into what Troy is saying, is that, you know, different types of events and activities require different types of facilities. One of the great things about the rowing events is they're utilizing resources that we already have in our community. You know, the river is such a great resource, and the cost to put on these types of events relative to some other events is really modest. And so when we're talking about hosting an event like this, bringing in 600 plus people from 10 different states, and we look at what did it cost us to put that on, what did it cost Parks and Rec, what did it cost the city, what did it cost our community or those organizations, that infrastructure is largely already in place, just like when we host the teams on the Big River or we're hosting other community events. And I think that's something that's important to think about as you look at, you know, the types of events people are hosting and what types of activities we're trying to create for our community, is that these are very efficient from a cost standpoint also. And I think that's important to look at. And we're utilizing resources that are there, such as our river.
Well, hey, thank you very much for being here, Coach. I know it's very meaningful for everybody on this board to see that there's such success for the users of our assets to have such tremendous success. And thank you for lifting up our staff. We know we always love the opportunity to say thank you to our staff who does tremendous hard work and doesn't always get the thanks they deserve. So thank you, staff. Thank you very much for making this a success.
You bet.
All right. Moving forward, we got to approve the minutes from October 10th. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? And does anybody have any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the October 10th meeting. Okay, that motion has been moved by Tom Ewart. I will second that. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this motion? Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll to approve the minutes. The motion has been made and seconded. Can we call the roll to approve the minutes? All those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Moving forward, new items for consideration. Gary Ferris, Forestry.
So Gary's going to give an overview of some of the forestry items and just a great opportunity to talk a little bit more about forestry. Also, I know we're kind of setting the agenda for the retreat, but if there's anything else that you as a board would like us to look at, share information about, shoot me an email, and that way we can make sure that you guys get your questions answered, but we can, or maybe some items that you just want the public to know about, and we can provide more information.
All right, well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to give you an update. Gary Ferris, Park and Recreation. I'm the city arborist. So Forestry has put together a couple of different contracts that are going to be let out and are being let out this month. And one of those is the tree and stump removal contract. And this is pretty typical for us. We've done this for several years in a row. There's about $230,000 available for that, and it should remove more than 500 trees from our streets and a few parks. We wanted to keep the cost per tree down as much as possible. One of the strategies for that was selecting the areas of town with the highest concentration of tree removal work that we knew of. And all of our work orders are organized by geographic location, so that was a system that we used to come up with what trees, what areas would be focused or targeted. This bid for the tree and stump removal will be opened on this Friday. Tree planting is a huge topic. We have 3 strategies that we are working on right now for tree planting. First off is what we normally do year over year is ball and burlap tree planting. And as you can see in this picture, the tree that is about to be planted, and this was a picture from Arbor Day 2022, a tree that we planted down at Peachtree Park. But remember later on the size of the root ball in this picture, and that root ball weighs anywhere from 400 to 600 pounds depending on how much water is in it. So we have to use a skid steer to move it, to place it in the hole, that kind of thing. That's normal operations. The bid that we have out right now is going to yield, well, actually, we've already purchased these trees. This is not a bid. We've purchased these trees. They are going to be starting to be delivered this week, and we'll plant just under 1,000 trees this winter, just like this one that you see. We're going to be targeting 15 different parks that are on our normal rotation. We have about an 8-year rotation for all of the different parks, and so about 15 of them are selected for this year. And then we have several hundred individual requests, so just people from the community that have asked us to plant a tree in the street right-of-way, and we're going to be able to fulfill several hundred of those. So we'll be planting a lot of trees. A new strategy for us this year is doing a contract for tree planting. That is not something that's normal for us. This is kind of first of its kind. So we're having to learn as we go. We've taken a lot of information from other contracts that have been out for tree planting through, say, engineering projects, and we've adapted those specifications to what we're expecting. And so there's a lot of effort has gone into those specifications. That bid is set to drop very, very quickly, I believe, this week. I know it's going through the process of getting through finance and being distributed. In order to come up with the locations where we were going to target, we took several different pieces of data into consideration. One is called a tree equity score. The tree equity score is developed through the American Forest Foundation. I believe that's the full name of them. But they take demographic data and income data and then tree canopy data and pile it all together and come up with a tree equity score. And you can get that score for pretty much any populous city in the United States. With Wichita, when you look across the city, it's not a bleak picture. It's not too bad when you compare that to, say, Tulsa or Kansas City. We have actually a higher score overall than what they do, but looking at where we had low scores that weren't airports, because airports don't have much canopy cover, as you can imagine, we looked at that. We looked at the targeted areas that we have used in the past. We keep a map that you can see on the right internally, and that's 30 years worth of data that we've kept up. And so that data, and then we look at our council district data, and we landed on the area from North Broadway east to North Grove, and from Central north to 21st Street. We did a thorough evaluation of that area, and that yielded about 1,400 planting locations in that area. So that bid is going out very, very soon. Our third strategy is a pilot program that we are in the middle of. This is our second year of this pilot program. We actually just finished planting trees that look like the one on the right. At least that's the root system that it looked like. But what we do is we buy in bare root trees in April. We put them in a bed of gravel. We grow them out in that bed of gravel till late September, early October. We plant them. But at harvest, the root system that you see on the right is what we see from most of the species that we do this with. And as you can see, this staff member is holding that tree, really the weight of it, with one hand. You can't do that with a bald burlap tree. So a normal sized individual staff member would be able to pick up 2, 3 of these in each hand and carry to a planting site, as opposed to having to have a machine and do that. So that opens up a lot of opportunity for having volunteers help us do this, because they're not at risk of being hit by a machine or having something drop on them, or various different safety risks that would be involved in utilizing machinery around volunteers. So we're real excited about this. Like I said, it is a 3-year pilot program. This is the second year, so we are going to do it for at least one more year, and then really start evaluating data to know if this is a viable program. what we're hoping to show is that we can develop a very healthy, very quickly establishing tree for less money, less effort in terms of staff time, and then also an availability to engage the public to help us plant. So if we can do this, I think we will be able to yield more plants in the ground, more trees in the ground, more community engagement, all while spending the same or less money. So that's ultimately the goal. Another point I wanted to make is this root system that you're looking at is 100% of the root system that tree has developed over its life in our gravel. When we buy a ball and burlap tree, and this is true for any ball and burlap tree you buy in a nursery, 90% of that root system is still in the field that the tree grew in. When they harvest that, they're cutting away almost all of what you would see. So that tree has to then reestablish that root system, and it takes a lot of energy, it takes time, and we're putting 100% of that root system in the ground, so we're getting that tree off and going immediately. So there's a lot of theory for you. But 3 strategies for planting, and trees are good and reforestation is essential. With that, I'll try to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
Explain this picture.
So that is a picture of before and after of a house on East Douglas. If you look, the house on the left in the old picture, there's a street tree planted even before the construction was done. And if you notice behind the house, there's nothing, which was pretty typical for Wichita at that time. There was no trees. Now, the picture on the right is a 2008, I believe. My eyes aren't that good. I think that's 2008. So lots of green down the street, and what a difference, right? So this is why we plant trees, because what we do today, 50 years from now, makes this kind of difference. So it is really essential for the quality of life that our city is showing to those who might want to move here and those who actually do live here.
Further questions?
Yes, sir.
Gary, excuse me, I've never questioned about, you had the 3 different strategies, but the first one was ball and burlap, the third was the gravel bed. What's the cost differential between the getting a tree and the size, maturity?
Okay. So a balled and burlap tree costs wholesale on average, because some species are more than others, right around $125 for wholesale cost. That's just to acquire the tree. That's not shipping or anything else. That's just the tree itself. Getting a bare root tree from its origin to in our gravel is about $35.
Then you have maintenance all summer, so there's 6 months of
Well-
staff time.
Yes and no. Yes, we absolutely have to monitor it. The input is really the water that goes onto it, and that is a system that we set up that is static and it's on a timer. We monitor that, but we don't spend hours and hours daily on any particular tree.
And the varieties available, is there any difference on that?
There is some difference, and that is a great question. And I do not believe that we will ever be able to get away from ball and burlap trees 100% simply for that reason. The number of varieties available for bare root is limited. So we struggle with that, with getting enough variety, and the more bulk we purchase, the better our variety choices will be, because the sellers, the growers of these smaller trees, they're trying to sell not to cities that want to buy, 300 or 400 of them. They want to sell thousands and thousands of them to producers that would then sell that same tree to us as a ball and burlap, but for a lot more money with less root system.
That's interesting. So you're kind of going upstream a little bit in the production.
Yes.
Okay.
We're taking out part of the time of that tree growing in the field, and we're keeping all the root system here.
I mean, that sounds like a really innovative, and I'm hope the pilot is successful. I mean, so what is the time that the planting season for those particular trees?
So we cannot let those trees overwinter because
Okay.
they are in gravel. So if it freezes, like a hard freeze, those roots are going to be in trouble. So we want to have that planted before the middle of October.
Okay, gotcha. So this is like looking into the future more or less, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
and like I said, we just finished planting the second round of those trees
Yep.
of that program. So we have one more to go, and then we're going to really dig in and analyze data for all 3 years.
And so you were talking about the opportunity, like what I really loved about that is the opportunity, like I see a lot of kids, a lot of volunteers on this. What is the way that if people are interested in helping with this, how could they go about saying, I want to give you a pair of hands on a Saturday to help plant? Is there a way that they can go and do that?
There are. They can email me. They can email or get a hold of the office. We can absolutely take volunteer groups. We had a volunteer group this fall help us plant trees out at K96 Park, and we had, I'm going to get my numbers wrong, roughly between 20 and 25 volunteers, and we had staff there to help as well. It wasn't that we just gave them a blank canvas and said, here's trees, go plant them. But with their help, we had 75 trees in the ground in an hour.
Oh, wow.
So that's a lot of help.
Yeah.
a
Okay,
lot
well,
of help.
I'll definitely
So-
keep that in mind because I know some people who said that this is, like, there's got to be Boy Scout troops and whatnot that we
Oh,
should try to
sure.
send your way. That'd be fantastic. Thank you for this idea. This is great. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much, Gary. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to skip right past prior business because I don't think we have anything that we need to bring back up. So let's go ahead and get into our finance update. Brandon, what do we got?
Thank you, Penny. So as always, these numbers are for January up through this last month, so it's going to be January through October 31st. Maybe. So we're going to start off a little bit differently. This is an overview of grants and donations that we've received over this last year. Some of these programs, like the Child Care Aware Grant that we've received, we'll actually receive more of that, but that is actual money that we've received during this calendar year. And we'll be receiving more money throughout this year and also into first and second quarter of next year. Also, there is a line there for various and donations. That's I can get you all of the individual donors for benches, trees, memorials, that type of thing. A lot of them are smaller dollar, but they do add up. Also, as you know, we received a sizable $150,000 donation from Park Foundation this last year to help us cover the overage costs of the Swanson Park Bridge project. Also, our summer camps received over $100,000 in CSBG money to help run those programs. So we're looking at about $1.2 million over this last year. As far as other revenues, they're looking strong. We are, collecting more than what we had budgeted, so we are running over our budget already, and this is through October, so we have 2 more months to go. And by this time, we have collected about $500,000 more than what we did this time last year. Also with expenses, with the expenditures, we are running total, we're running about 83% of our budget. Are spending about 1.5 million more than this time last year. However, last year it was COVID. We still had a lot of things that we weren't able to do, a lot of programs we weren't able to do because of COVID restrictions back in 2021. And so as we head more into business as usual, those expenditures are going to go up. We will be going to council in a few weeks to do a budget adjustment for the general fund. We are going to be under the total budget, but we just need to move some pots around. We've had to do more with the contractuals, more with the commodities budget, and less with personal services. So we'll have to be moving some things from personal services lines into some of the other contractual services. As far as cost recovery goes, everything looks pretty solid. Summer camps did really well. Specialty parks continue to do well. So, brief overview with golf. Revenues are looking really strong. About $388,000 this time last year. Expenditures are also looking good. A couple of weeks ago, we did increase the budget. We moved from from reserves about $300,000, and we will be going back to council not this week, not tomorrow, but the next Tuesday, again, just to readjust funding levels mainly for contractuals. The drought really hit McDonald hard, and those water fees I think were a lot more than what we anticipated. But with the new improvements to the retraining pond, I'm sure Jesse can give you more of the numbers, but with this last rain, that filled up really nicely, and we don't really anticipate as high of water bills over there, so that's going to be a good thing. Cost recovery, again, looks really strong. And with that, if you have any questions.
Questions for staff? Troy?
Relatively, how did pools do? I saw your number, looked like it was short. Oh. Sorry, how did pools do?
Pools did pretty well. They were well attended. They did a cost recovery about 41%, but our goal was around 39%, so we hit our goal. Whenever you look at cost recovery, the question is, when we look at goals, do we want to make 100%? Is this going to be fully funded? And with a lot of these projects, or a lot of these programs especially with our rec programs, some of them, we can expect them to be 100%. And others, we are providing services to lower income households and lower income families. And so no, we don't price them as high as if we were wanting 100% cost recovery.
But in general, we did pretty well.
But in general, we did really well.
That's fine.
Yeah, if I could add, in regards to aquatics, I think we did better than what we expected this year. However, I think there's still a lot of room for improvement. So as you guys know, Brian Hill moved on to another job. We brought on Joe. He came on board, and we just threw him into it. He just had to survive. And he did survive this summer, and we're looking at making plans for next year to do even better. We have 2 splash pads that we didn't get constructed in time. Now, that doesn't necessarily go into these numbers, but it's part of aquatics. And so we see those splash pads are going to be operating next year. But I think we will have a more targeted effort in our swimming pools to get more people in our swimming pools. I think we have a more targeted effort to get more swim lessons. We're definitely going to have a targeted effort to get more lifeguards. And this summer we had issues where we actually had to reduce hours because we didn't have enough lifeguards. We also had some weather issues as well. So we didn't operate to our full potential, and we still met our goal. But I think always trying to be ambitious. I think our goal next year is going to be higher.
I was just curious, is there anything that you point to the rec center numbers just being a little bit under the goal? Is that just more of what you were just describing? Is that more COVID hangover? What do you look at when you see that?
And I'll speak to that. A lot of that is that we're still not at full capacity with a lot of our programs.
Right.
Next summer, we'll be transitioning over to back to 100% of our summer camps. Some of the things that we're doing, we're still at 50% this past summer. So those numbers that we're seeing there, even with the $500,000 increase, we're still on operating at full capacity.
Thank you. Further questions? All right, well, thank you very much, Brandon.
You're welcome, thanks.
Communication update.
So I didn't have anything from the board to communicate to the city manager or to council. And same with the other direction, I don't have any communication from council or the city manager to communicate to you. So I don't have anything in regards to communication.
All right.
If there's a message you would want to send to the city manager or council, let me know. I'll send it to them.
Get salted on the roads, get the salt going, I would say would be, that's the message. Pass them.
I'll pass it on.
Yes, that's all. What's that?
It's raining, we'll do it again.
Okay, well, damn. Well, I tried. Okay, so we're on to social media. Katie Eddy.
Okay, I was gonna say. So I don't have a full presentation for you today. I'll do my big presentation next month, but I just had a few quick updates to share with you. So we are past our peak season, so we're not seeing the same growth that we were seeing on the social pages over the summer. However, we are still seeing marginal growth on a handful of those pages. The Kansas Wildlife Exhibit, Open Streets, Watson Park, and NAFSCR all still saw about 5 to 7% follower growth in the last couple months, so those are still improving. The rest are staying about the same from month over month. We also added the golf pros to their respective course pages. So we're going to try over the next few months to grow the follower count on those pages as well, and some more outreach for specific course members. And then finally, we got the SurveyMonkey link shared for the topics and the feedback we want to get for the retreat coming up. So that's out there currently. We've already got 7 responses just since late last week. And we're going to keep pushing that in the next few weeks until the retreat.
Excellent.
Yep.
Also want to add on social media, we posted an event that's going to happen at 4:30 this afternoon over at NASCAR Park.
Yeah.
The Oscar Mayer Wienermobile will be over at NASCAR Park. So when we're done with the event, when we're done with the meeting, we could go to that event. And I did see that there was quite a few comments on the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, and I'm excited to go check it out, even in the snowish rain.
All right, well, anybody have questions for staff? Okay, thank you very much, Katie, appreciate it. All right, recreation update, Reggie.
Reggie Davidson, the Superintendent of Recreation. Just wanted to kind of give an update of some of the activities that we had for the month of October, kind of highlight some of the things that have continued to go extremely well in the division, and then some of the upcoming events that we have for the fall as well. So first up, our athletics division, one of the things that we did this year that we mentioned earlier was that we were doing the Miracle League this year over at Orchard Park, and we were able to offer that particular program at no cost to the participants because of a sponsorship that we got from Shields that are transitioning in here in the community. We went well. We had 50 kids registered for that event. Also had Bat Buddies that were out for assisting on the last day of the event, as well as the wind surge, and Barry was there to present medals for the participants there. Got a lot of good feedback from those parents and the individuals that participated, and also have gotten a request already to expand some of our adaptive programming that we're working right now to do a bowling league that's going to be opening up registration this week to do for during the cold weather. So we're looking at ways that we can continue to do those type of things to reach out to all demographics in the community that we can provide services for them as well. So our junior Wichita Football League finished up its season on October the 30th. We were able to work with Friends University again this year and had the championship game at their college stadium there where the kids had an opportunity to play there on site. We had over 900 kids that participated in the league this year with 42 different teams. And one of the things that we always challenge with is there that we have seen some decline in that the numbers overall for football because of concerns with concussions, that we haven't gotten enrollment in some areas that we've done in the past. But to kind of combat that, you guys know that we started an NFL flag league that's continued to grow as well. That started out with smaller numbers and that we almost tripled that for this year as well. So we're looking at other ways that we can keep the kids engaged in football so that they can have an opportunity to play the sport. So we had our, kind of leading into that, we had an adult lacrosse tournament that was held out at South View Park. We had participants from 4 different states, of course, here in Kansas, as well as Oklahoma and Nebraska that came out to compete. On August on the 29th, we also had NFL player Albert Mack that hosted a flag football tournament that had multiple teams that came from out of town to compete as well. So as Troy mentioned earlier, we're always looking at events that we have that have an economic impact on here. So when we have those teams and those individuals coming in, they have to have a place to stay, they have to eat in the area, have to buy gas, they're shopping. So it's always something that we can do to help contribute to what we're doing with quality of life and having an economic impact throughout the city. So Great Plains Nature Center has been busy as well. They've been doing quite a bit more programming and doing some things there to reach out to the community. On the 2nd of October, they had an archery club that they're starting there on site. They provide all the equipment and things free for those participants there. They had to come in and learn about, how to actually set a bow and fire, and that's something that they're looking at doing on a monthly basis moving forward. Kind of our long-range goal with that is trying to work with potentially having a range that's there on site that we can expand that programming there through some grant opportunities that we're exploring. They also had an art on the trail that had 15 artists that participated in that event with over 100 guests that came out at Chisholm Creek Park. Local artists there did a splatosphere plane and air painting with the display at the center as well. So continue to look at how we can do things with being creative with engaging our local artists as well as giving an outdoor component to keep our young people involved in what we're doing on both outdoor adventure as well as in the arts arena. On the 22nd, they had a Halloween event that they had there on site and talked about the importance of bats and what they do, and then worked with a local artist here as well. And they brought in quite a few ambassadors and from the Nature Center as well as there at GPNC to help with that event as well. Tennis Center continues to be really popular in expanding our program that we have there. The Tennis Center was awarded the USTA Cancer Facility of the Year for the work that we're doing there with youth and the programming there. So Sarah and the team there is really making a concentrated effort to continue to expand those programs that we're doing there to the point that it's a constant battle with being able to balance between the space that we have there for pickleball and tennis. So it's a good problem to have as we lead into getting our pickleball complex on board out south as well. So to kind of combat some of that and make sure that it's available for the community, most of our rec centers now have pickleball indoors on the basketball court, so that once the weather's cold, that we can put that out to the community, that they can actually use it at a minimal fee to go and play there for $3 for participating in the time that we have set aside for pickleball play. So we also hosted the 6A Girls Tournament there on October the 14th, had 24 singles and 48 doubles that were there. Again, had people from outside of the area, Manhattan, Lawrence, Topeka, Kansas City, that came into here and participated in that particular event. So 6A is one of the larger tournaments that they have, and we were able to host it this year and continue to look at how we can expand that moving into the future. So we also started pickleball has continued to be growing quite a bit. We had our adult tennis and as well as pickleball classes that were successful this year. So we're trying to make sure that we're getting new people in as well as keeping the ones that have been involved for quite some time to kind of learn about the sport. So we're transitioning into indoors now to continue those programming for the fall. And kind of last but not least, we're planning for our second Winter Wonderland event. I'm sure you guys remember last year was the first event we had there. We had over 1,000 people that were out last year. We're expecting a big turnout this year as well. And we're going to do the Merritt tree lighting in conjunction with that, and also looking at some ways that we can do some things a little bit differently to light up the space to create more of a winter environment. So after that, I'll stand for any questions you guys may have.
We have questions for staff. I got to know if Santa Claus is going to be showing up to Winter Wonderland as he did last year. I just wanted to make certain Santa Claus is, because if I'm going to be putting that on my agenda, I need to see Mr. and Mrs. Claus. They're the draw of the event. So just wanted to knock on wood for that
We will
one.
have a special guest for Santa this
Okay.
year, that'll be out for the event as well. So.
Well, very good. Well, I will make certain to pass that along. We got very special stuff coming up, so that's excellent. So I wanted to just also, huge congrats on the Facility of the Year award. That's the kind of stuff, the unsung like champions here of just major success. So hats off to the department, hats off to everybody to making that happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we're in transition now as well. I'm sure you guys know that Amanda Cervantes that was there transitioned on, and she's in Las Vegas now. We just hired on the new person that started today, actually. That's going to be, I think, has quite a bit of experience, going to help us grow in what we're doing, have several different certifications to help us be able to grow, continue to grow youth and adult programming there at the center. So we're excited about it.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Reggie. Okay. All right. Here we go with a golf update from Jesse.
All right, good afternoon. I'll start with the rounds update and the numbers for October, which were really good, very happy with the way it turned out. Just looking at total rounds this year over last year through the end of October, we are about 5,000 rounds more than this time last year, which again, knowing how busy it was last year, that's pretty awesome. That's basically an entire month's worth of rounds on a course that we've added this year over last year. So even I don't remember the day I was out at Tex last week where the weather wasn't this bad, but it wasn't great, and I couldn't even talk to staff because there were so many people trying to play golf that day. So it's really good to see. Just October alone, we increased over last year by 1,000 rounds, just almost 1,000 rounds, which is phenomenal. I think there was a little bit more rain last October than what we had this year, so that accounts for some. But even with that being said, extremely happy with that number. The cart rental comparison, we are about $65,000 up over last year through October, which is great. We are looking at ways to get new carts in, and this is obviously we have to have the revenue to back that, and we're doing that. So another really good number. Food and beverage, we are $125,000 up over last year at this point. That, again, even with that huge increase, is still one of the biggest areas I think that we can improve. We'll get into some of the plans in just a minute, but great results there. Merchandise comparison, we're up almost $100,000 over last year on merchandise. Now, as you know, we get 5% of that. The pros kind of run that part of the business, but they're doing a great job with increasing what they offer and the service that they're offering to our golfers. Membership comparison, our membership numbers dropped a little bit last month, and that's kind of expected this time of the year. A lot of the young adult, we lost 12 of those. Some of them are going back to school, doing different things. So it did drop a little bit. You don't like to see that, but it's not too alarming. I think we'll pick up a boatload of members in the spring. Driving range comparison, pretty close to last year. We're up about $3,000 year to date. That's another area that really have big plans for over the winter to increase, to just kind of upgrade and put more targets and do some different things to the ranges to make them a little bit more fun. More efficient for people that are serious trying to practice, but also more fun for just our casual golfers and families that are out just trying to have a good time, more targets and just different things. So I think there's a big area there. And then, of course, the weather, we got a little bit of rain right at the end of November, which was much needed, so a pretty dry month until the last couple of days. Before I get to questions, Brandon brought up the pond project at MAC. It was completed, and with that last rain, Ron went out and he estimates that we collected about $18,000 worth of water, more than what we've ever been able to collect there before. And then with the pump that was installed earlier this year, we're gonna be able to use that water. I mean, if we get more rain than we did this year, that'll be consistent throughout the year. And the big water bill that we're having to pay right now, hopefully will be cut down dramatically. So success with that project. All right, before I do any updates, any questions on any of the numbers or?
I think we're good.
Good, okay. Okay, the first thing I'll talk about, the Golf Board of Governors, the council approved the nominees, so we're putting that together. We're looking at the first meeting probably in January. I'm very excited to get that going, kind of there's some things that we're kind of waiting on to get that board in place, just to get that input and feedback. So very excited to get that going. I've sent out a big email and I've heard back from most of them. Everyone's excited and ready to get going. So little delay with that. It took a little longer than we hoped, but we're there, so that's good. We are working right now to create the bid for the clubhouse renovations, and this is huge. This, in my opinion, this is going to open up so much opportunity for revenue. And aside from that, it's going to offer our guests more of what they deserve when they come to our facility. So we're looking at, I've probably went over this before, but complete renovations inside at Sim and at Mac, and more exterior renovations at Tex. A lot of the outside of that building has some issues, so we're looking to address those, make it look nicer, make it look better. But with the clubhouse renovations at the other two, we'll be able to host a lot more events, which is such a opportunity for us to make more revenue. We're not capitalizing on that at all, and I don't blame a lot of the groups right now that are going to other places, because our clubhouses just aren't set up to accommodate those types of group. But we are the plans that we're drawing up for the bid will rectify that, and we'll be able to handle those groups. Yep.
Could you describe some of the events that, like, if you were to expand and renovate, what kind of events could we expect? We have, it's wide open. We have tournaments right now, benefit tournaments that are hosted by organizations within the city that are going outside of our courses to do it. And to me, that's embarrassing. And that's on us. That's on us to fix that and bring them back, to one of our courses. But tournaments, even at Auburn, we've already done. Kevin Bishop, our food and beverage manager, he's really been working on changing the inside of Auburn, and we've been contacted, he's gotten tons of emails about weddings, business meetings, different things like that. It's an area of business that we're really trying to grow, and he's doing a phenomenal job of getting that ball rolling. Every time we put something out, we get emails coming in. He's got people, from April of next year all the way through the end of 24? Yeah, wow. So, that's just, we can keep the golf course going full force and have that line of business going as well inside the clubhouse. So, the type of event, there's no limitations. If we want to do a cornhole tournament, if we want to host a huge golf tournament, if we want to do poker games, whatever in a legal way, we can do all of those things. So we had a business meeting a few weeks ago, and they went ahead and booked their next several meetings at Auburn because we put a new projection screen in there, put new TVs, new tables and chairs. It was not a very good setup for a function like that. We got rid of that classroom style seating and we got round tables and 6-foot tables, and we can set it up for any type of event. So that's definitely something we're very excited about, is increasing the event and tournament, all that kind of revenue next year. I'm in the process of starting a volunteer program for starters and marshals. Right now, once a golfer checks in, once they walk out, there's not a lot of control. Our folks are so busy inside, they really have no idea what's going on in the courses. So it's something almost every course is done. I've done it my whole career, have volunteer starters and marshals so they can kind of control and make sure everyone's experience is good at the course, make sure that everyone's moving. If someone's backing up the entire golf course, we know that. We don't have to wait for someone to get mad and call us, and then we don't have staff to send out to fix the problem. We're putting a bind. So with that, I've gotten probably close to 50 volunteers people that have reached out about wanting to volunteer and help with that project. So I think that's going to make a huge difference.
This is the first week since I've been here that we haven't been going a million miles per hour. So there are a lot of things I've been waiting to slow down as much as I don't want to slow down. But there's a lot of trainings that I'm looking to put forth. A lot of, I don't really like the term customer service. I call it more customer experience because it's not just the interaction. It's what the clubhouse looks like when they pull up, when they're booking the tee times. Is it a good process? I mean, everything from start to finish for their whole experience they have with us. And I'm looking to put together those trainings, and we're going to kick those off in the next couple of weeks with all of golf staff. And the feedback I've gotten from staff is that they're excited. You know, you never know. You tell people they're going to go through a training, you don't know if they're going to be excited about it, but they actually are, because they really would like to know how they can give, offer a better experience for the customer. So that's good. And kind of the way I'm putting together the plan for golf, to me, there's three parts. You have your golf course. That's our product. The golf courses have to improve. They have to stay in great shape, and we've got big plans for that. The clubhouse, the renovations will hopefully improve that dramatically, and then the service that we offer. And I think those trainings will take care of that. So really excited about where we're at up to this point, more excited about where we're going to go for next year. So.
Further questions? Okay. Well, I don't think there's anything else we have for you, Jesse, but we had discussed earlier in the meeting, we have to have some action on the Golf Governance Board. We've got a vacancy, and so Troy, why don't you just kind of describe what we need to do to mitigate for that?
So we do have a position on the Golf Governance Board. It's a non-voting position. Help me with what is the exact?
Ex officio.
Thank you. It's an ex officio, so it's a non-voting position. However, because all these golf courses are on either city parkland or on Board of Commissioners parkland, there was definitely an interest of having somebody there to guide and have some input and whatnot. So we would like to figure out who that person is going to be, and we would like that to happen today so they can be oriented and part of the committee that Jesse's working on putting together. So I'll hand it off to you.
I think,
Eddie wanted this.
yeah, considering that our former president has a deep and abiding love for our golf system, I think nobody more appropriate than appointing Eddie to our Board of Governors. So Eddie, if you're watching, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to make this motion to appoint you to the Golf Governance Board. So if I have a second.
I'll second that.
Oh, and that will be seconded. So Troy has seconded Eddie. So let's go ahead, and if we have any comments or questions on this motion. Okay, seeing none. We can take the roll. All those in favor of appointing Eddie Fonestock, please say aye, or yay? Yay? Aye, yay? Nay? All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Congratulations, Eddie. All right, we got that handled then.
All right, so thank you for that golf business. And what I wanted to also share is that, you think about a year ago, where we're at, looking at what direction we were going to go in regards to private management company compared to keeping it in-house. It was a very difficult discussion. There was pros and cons on both sides. But knowing now that we have a direction to go within the past 6 months that Jesse's been here, and these were all things that were on the agenda. These were all things that we were wanting to do. We were just waiting and waiting and waiting. But now we're actually executing, and even at a higher level. And I'm very grateful and thankful Jesse's here, because he's dealing with all the day-to-day stuff and motivating the staff and taking care of all the little details that we couldn't take care of before. But I'm just really enthralled and excited about golf. It's doing really, really well. So I'm really excited that our staff is doing well and people are appreciating all the efforts that we're doing for golf.
It's been a painstaking process, but the numbers really speak for themselves, and that really speaks to your leadership. That speaks again to the staff, and so thank you very much for all of the success that you're bringing to us here, and cannot wait to see what's coming next. So thank you very much, Jesse.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all right. Since unfortunately Vice President Cabral is not here, we're going to skip on just to the President's update, which I will keep very short and sweet. We are looking toward our special retreat at the end of this month on the 29th of November. That's a Tuesday. Are we good? Is that right?
Yes, you're correct.
Tuesday.
But we did skip one.
Oh, excuse me. I skipped Gary. Oh my God! I thought sorry. In my mind, I was like, we just talked to Gary. Are you back? I'm so sorry, guys.
He's like, I stuck around.
He did stick. He stuck around just for this. Man, one of these days, I'll get these meetings. Just okay. Oh, okay.
And while he's getting ready for that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Park Foundation. They've been doing a lot of work and in marketing, and so they got a contract to market all the things that the Park Board is doing. I'm sorry, the Park Foundation is doing. An example is what was on the board, the donation to Swanson Park, but there was also a $100,000 donation to Chester I. Lewis. And so the idea is to put more information about the Park Foundation and the work that they're doing. The Plates for Parks program, which you guys all know about, I don't have to explain it to you guys. It's already in the H's. I saw the other day H 236, which is huge. So far, I think we've used somewhere in the neighborhood of about almost $200,000, and we have unencumbered close to $400,000 from that program. Another thing that we're going to be doing with the Parks Foundation is I'm going to be doing a vending units for stand-up paddle boards and for kayaks. And so what it is, it's a big cage. It's probably about as big as these two tables, and they're stacked 4 high. And in there is kayaks or stand-up paddle boards. And what you do is you download an app, and in that app you put your credit card information to pay for it. And if you want to rent a kayak or a canoe, you go into the app and you're able to do that, and it gives you a code so you can pull out the kayak or canoe with the life jacket and all that kind of stuff. We're looking at 3 locations. One is O.J. Watson. The other one is over at Gander Mountain. We have a boat ramp over there, and the other one is over at over by the tennis center, so they can have access to the Little Arkansas. So there is an investment that we have to make. What was really interesting is that the company actually has a warehouse here in Wichita, even though they're nationwide. And so what they do from Wichita is they have different orders at different cities, and from Wichita they go to different places to install these cages. And since they are here in Wichita, I told them there's not that many expenses to install them, and so we actually got a discount. So we're going to do 3 of these, and they're about $15,000 a piece. And we're hoping, it's a 5-year contract, and we're hoping to break even within 2 years, maybe 3. And then anything above that is revenue that goes back to the Park Foundation. So just another revenue stream that's pretty exciting as well. So,
what happens at the end of that contract? You say it's a 5-year contract.
contract.
So is it just ours, and do we give them back, or what's that look like?
At that time, we renegotiate. Do we want to do this year by year? Do we want to do another 5 years? Okay. Just depends.
Gotcha.
I mean, a lot of things happen in 5 years, so we'll see what happens.
It's true. Okay. Well, Gary, so sorry that we're right back to you. Thank you so much for coming back up.
I will try to take no offense. So, a little more information about forestry, and this is just our normal monthly update. And again, these numbers are through the end of October. Our inspections are doing good. We're inspecting a lot of trees. We're pruning. We're removing trees. Emergency response is just basically our normal stuff. The trees planted there, 128, that was the last of the bare root trees that we were talking about earlier. And we finished up our watering of our bald and burlap trees and our bare root trees in October. Other maintenance issues, we do our Lucity maintenance on an ongoing basis. That is our data management system, our work order system that we have to keep up to date. And we had use big equipment, you have issues. One of the big issues that we had this past month is we had the bed of our knuckle boom when it was dumping at the landfill. The bed actually came off the back end of the truck, and it's not supposed to do that. So that truck is down for a while, getting fixed. It's not fixed yet because I haven't seen it back in the yard, but hopefully it's not too much longer before we get that truck back. And then, of course, we have vacancies to fill. We've talked about the contract, skip that. November activity that is scheduled, Christmas lights, and more Christmas lights. We do a display at the Tennis Center, Century 2, the Warren Square at Old Town, and then also the Mayor's Christmas Tree at NASCAR Park. So we are going to be starting to set the Tennis Center up starting tomorrow, as well as Century 2 tomorrow. And then we will pick up the trees, the live trees that are scheduled to be delivered Thursday afternoon, Friday morning. There's some leeway there for shipping, but we should be picking up our live trees Friday, have them available for Monday. We'll set them, they'll unfurl, and then we'll decorate them Tuesday and Wednesday and have all that completed by Thanksgiving. Park maintenance has been busy. In October, they did a lot of overseeding, cool season turf fertilizing, a lot of homeless camp cleanup, irrigation. There was a pretty big issue with irrigation problems at Waterwalk. Those have been resolved. The issue with the well at South Lakes, that is ongoing, but that is just about to come to an end and be resolved. And then they're also beginning the winterization of all the irrigation systems. Veterans Day event was supported at Veterans Park with some new flags and other items. There was a fire on the roof of the bandstand at Central Riverside that had to be dealt with. That vandal is a repeat offender. The story is quite long, I won't go into it, but multiple times the individual returned on top of the bandstand at Central Riverside, and I just got a text before the meeting started that the individual returned again and was arrested today. So a lot of that, hopefully that's the end of it, but we shall see. A lot of work has gone into replacing the boom axe machine that park maintenance uses to maintain the river edge, pond edges, various other areas in town, and the boom axe that is currently in use is limited in its capability in comparison to some of the other equipment that's out there. So that equipment is being worked on in terms of a requisition. I'm pretty sure a requisition actually went out today for that new piece of equipment. It will expand the safety of that operation. It will expand the capability of that operation, and I think even reduce the number of employees that they have to put on that project. I think that is the case because the vision will be so much better from inside the cab of this new piece. So a lot of good things going on there. Let's see. They contracted maintenance for mowing is going to be rebid, and all that had to be remapped, and that was a huge project that got wrapped up, and that bid has gone out and will be done by year end. Refuse collection is huge in park maintenance, and you know, when you don't do that, boy, people notice. So you all have been made aware many different times about the issues with the Packer trucks, and so I won't go into that, but a lot of trash has been collected out of our parks. Year over year, July, August, and September, there's been an additional 20 tons taken out this year just with one truck, as we were taken out with 2 trucks previous year. So A lot of trash is being left. With that, I'll have any questions.
Questions for staff? Well, I want to know, I mean, you're sparking my thought on this. Regarding trash, I actually had a resident reach out to me regarding trash. How big of a problem, I mean, if we could have a message to council or the manager, like, it sounds like having only one functional trash truck is a fairly, I mean, is that something that you would say rises to the level of high priority that we need to be focused? I just need to understand the level of that.
It is being dealt with.
Okay.
That is not under my jurisdiction. I don't deal with that on a daily basis. But I do know that
That's correct.
2 new trucks have been ordered.
Mm-hmm.
They are, all that whole scenario has been taken place already. So it's not something that we're waiting on other than the manufacturer of that truck and its delivery.
Got it.
Yes, we've been campaigning over a year for new trash trucks. And actually, these trash trucks are going to have more capacity, they're going to be more flexible, they're going to get all the bells and whistles, and so they're at the high end. We've been having issues with the maintenance of the trash trucks. One of them actually bent in half. So, but we've been lobbying for these pieces of equipment. But also on top of that, we've been lobbying for the staff to operate them as well. And so it's kind of hard for us to do that when we have all these vacancies. So once we get the vacancies filled, then we're going to see how we are with staffing, and if we still need to lobby for more staff to do that, that's what we'll need to do. Staff in this regard is dealing with trash they're doing a fantastic job. It's hard to believe. As folks really say they appreciate our parks and have great respect for green space, we get more trash in the parks and as residential trash. You can tell it's people coming out there and dumping their residential trash in our parks. And so we just have to continue to take care of that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hey, well, thank you very much, Gary.
Tom has
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Sorry, Tom.
Yeah, this is maybe more for Troy, but Great Plains Nature Center, maintenance schedule, or what all is going on there? What's the plans? That's a big question, I know.
Can you give me, in terms of
The building.
The building, okay. So the building does not belong to us. It belongs to, I think it's state operated, is that correct?
It depends, some of it is state, some is federal.
Some federal,
Yeah.
some state, some.
So as you know, there's 3 different entities that operate, plus the Friends Group, so that's actually 4 different entities that operate the building. We maintain and take care of the property and the land around it, but we don't take care of the building. So I vaguely remember that there's some HVAC issues, there's some other foundation issues, there's some roofing issues that are all being addressed. I can't tell you the details, but if you want something, I can make sure to get it sent to you.
I heard it from friends of the Great Plains Nature Center. I know that the facility will be closed for a year or something like that, and all programs are gonna have to move
That's-
out.
I don't think so. That would be news to me. I've never heard that before.
Wichita Audubon has regular programming there, and they're looking for different facilities for probably the next year, is what I understood.
I have not heard that. We'll get with our staff and find out.
Yeah, because it sounded like a lot of the programming that they generally, that you explained about will have to change, will have to move. But I'll try to find out more as well.
Okay. In fact, you know what we probably should do is Amanda Alisi, she is our executive director over there. She's a city
She's
employee.
your employee.
Yes. And you know what? We're due for a good presentation, an update, and maybe we bring her next year in January to do a presentation. So, yeah.
Okay, anybody have any other further questions? Okay, all right, well, thank you very much again, Gary. Well, I'm double checking the list, and I think we've made it through. Now we are at the president's update, so forgive me again. But here we are at, I think, record time getting through this meeting today, so that's very good too. So wanted to say thank you very much again for being here today. And I'm very excited to come together at the end of the month on November 29th to speak with everybody at our special retreat. I had been working with Penny in securing the library as an alternative to this location. The reason being is that it's just easier to get to. It's just easier to walk right in rather than having to go through security. Anytime that we can make it easier for folks to come into our meetings and participate and listen along, I would hope that we could try to make that possible. So that's why I was trying to reach out. But barring that, if we can't make it happen, I know Penny, I believe, has gotten that secured for this location. So the only other thing in addition to that is I wanted to let you folks know I wanted to reach out to my fellow board members and just speak to you individually. I'd like, if possible, if you wanted to get a cup of coffee or something that we could talk about what it is that you want to talk about at this retreat. What are the points that you really want to raise? And I want to make certain that I can try to hear that and act on that in this meeting when we're facilitating. And so if there's anything else that we're leaving out and that you really think that we need to raise, I would really, so look out for that discussion if you're able to talk, even over the phone. So I think that's really the only thing that I had as far as an update. So Troy, I think we're on to the director's update.
So before we go ahead, Reggie.
Excuse me.
If the library isn't available, I'll offer the seasoned venue to host the event here. If you guys get an opportunity to see that.
That would be really neat. Reggie, if you can't hear on YouTube, had offered the Seasons venue down at Watson. And the only question is there ability to live stream from there? That was the one hang up, is that we wanted to make certain not only is it a publicly accessible place, but people that can't come in person can live stream it as well.
So we have the AV system and the Wi-Fi and everything that's in place there at the location as well, so we can do that.
And what's the capacity?
It's 100.
Okay, so I mean, barring any objection, I don't know, what's the...
We would need to bring our cameras.
We probably would have to bring our camera, but we do have the connectivity for the internet that we have inside, the projector and the screen.
Okay. So again, the idea being, want to make it as accessible and open as possible. If folks want to come and participate, this meeting is for the board. This is for members to express our thoughts and our feelings, but I wanted to make certain that folks, if they wanted to follow along and possibly ask questions to get some clarity, that's something I wanted to make certain the public is absolutely welcome and encouraged to participate. And if in the meantime you had any questions or things that you wanted to raise to your member of the Board of Park Commissioners, please go online and look up who your Board of Park Commissioners. Contact information is all listed on wichita.gov. So if you have any concerns or questions about where the Park Department, the Park and Rec Department is now and what the future looks like, feel free to reach out, because I know that everybody on the board is deeply invested in the future of this community and this park system. So thank you again very much.
So before I go into more details, one last thing we need to do is elect somebody for the Sustainability Board. And so we'd like to get somebody, representative, to go to that board and represent the Park Board. So if you guys would like to discuss who that person would be and make a vote, I'd appreciate it.
That is a monthly appointment? Okay, and that's a monthly meeting, rather? Okay, so.
Is that what you brought up last week,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, if there's no one else who is interested, I could put my name forward because I remember from last meeting that there was some consternation about jumping on. I would be happy to put myself forward unless there was another member of this board who is interested. In that case, I will pull my name out of contention and I would gladly support another member. But I just wanted to say I do want to have a solution for this today. So
I wouldn't mind also.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what all I'm stepping into, but
Okay.
I wouldn't be opposed to it either.
I would be very grateful myself if you're interested in that. So is there anybody else who might have an interest in this position? Okay, well, Lucia, absolutely. No, I mean, I'm...
You guys are making me nervous. Should I have not?
I'll second her.
Okay, yeah, motion has been made and seconded by Troy. So all those in favor, please cast your vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Congratulations, our newest member of the Sustainability Board, Lucia Sherman.
Philip, would you...
Yes, I will. I'll give you the rundown. Give me a ring and I'll give you the rundown.
Thank you very much. Thank you for stepping forward. Okay, Troy, is there anything else?
A couple items. So we're working on a pilot program that's really kind of cool. It's with PlayCore, and As you saw, we know that our parks are being used more because there's more trash. But this pilot is really kind of cool because it's actually giving us some solid numbers of different chunks of areas of the city that gets used. And so we've done 2 places so far. We've done Keeper of the Plains and we've done Pawnee Prairie Park. So yeah, Pawnee Prairie was really kind of interesting because we had 2018 numbers, and let me take a step back. So the way that they're getting this information is from walking around with your cell phone. So everybody has a cell phone nowadays, but it doesn't record who, doesn't have any kind of information about tracking them or anything like that. It just kind of it detects cell phones and tells you how many people are in that area. So in 2018, Pawnee Prairie Park had 60,000 people visit that park. This year, to date, we've got close to 120,000 people visiting that park. And we still have, when we got that data, it was end of October, so we still had 2 more months of data. So same thing, we saw growth happening over at Keeper of the Plains, but even more so, it tells you when people are there, it tells you peaks and valleys and that kind of stuff. And obviously, Keeper of the Plains, closer to when the fire pots are lit, there's more activity there. So it's a great tool for us to really find out more information about what's happening in our parks. And so this pilot program, we were lucky. I think there was 3 other cities across the country that we're working with Playcorps on this information. Now, we're lucky right now because we're getting a discounted rate. I'm not sure what we can afford in regards to surveying every single park every year, but we'll see what the cost is. But just being part of this survey was a great honor because they get to pick anybody across the country. But it's because we have great relationships with Playcorps, and we just our status across the country is rising on a regular pace. So we have, I think, 3 more sites that we're going to get data from, and we're also going to look at data at our swimming pools as well, because we'll be able to see how that data compares to our point of sales data. It'll be really interesting to see how that all works out together. But it's telling me exactly what I know, is that our parks are being used more and more. And as that happens, that means we need more and more resources to maintain them. And this just is good data and information for me to go and ask for more resources. So I just thought I'd share that with you guys.
That's just the number of cell phones that walk by a place. If there's a family with 2 or 3, it doesn't tell you how many actual persons. And it doesn't tell you if you're on a bicycle or a horse or walking or jogging or walking a dog or anything else.
Right, it's pretty general, it's pretty broad. There's a, what's the word I'm looking for? An algorithm that they run that will tell you by X amount of cell phones represents X amount of families, which represents X amount of kids. So it's high level, but we don't necessarily see how they get all those numbers.
That's cool data.
Yeah, it is really cool. And we had talked to a couple other companies, even 3 years ago. I remember having that conversation with some other companies that would do this. And it's just a great way to, just kind of get a taste of how people are using our parks. And I can actually use some solid numbers. And if we can do this year after year, then we can follow that data. It'll be really helpful. So I'm really excited about what the rest of those parks are going to look like. I'm going to be excited how we can use this tool in the future. So, a couple other updates. We've been working on the clap design. And Philip, if you want to share any information about that, or do you want me to do it?
Go right ahead.
I think it would be really exciting if you shared some information.
Do you? Okay. Sure. Anything for you, Troy. No, we just met today, Troy and I did, with the city manager, Councilmember Ho Heisel, and a couple other folks, to look at the 5 million over the next 2 years of how that's going to be spent, right? And the proper placement of it, because, it sits in the middle of a neighborhood. How do we best position the playground? There's other things, right? So we'll make sure that, and the parking was the other thing too, right? And recent events, especially with disc golf, has taken off there tremendously, right? There's a lack of parking, right? So making sure we have the proper amount of parking, and then also putting an accessible playground system into it. And Troy's got some good ideas from that of, an accessible playground, but also one that's kind of for everybody. So
Thanks, Philip. Appreciate you.
yeah, no problem.
A couple other items. We're putting a mural over at Murdoch Park. So we're working with some kids and some artists. It's really going to be a cool program. If we can do at this location, many other locations, we could do murals. And the cool thing is that the art community is taking the lead, but they're bringing in kids to do the work as well, and they can have some ownership of that. Chester I. Lewis, I'm getting word that hopefully we'll be able to open it up at the end of December. What we're waiting for is just a couple other construction items to be done, but in general, the park is ready to go. We'll do a ribbon cutting once all the art is installed. So I was going down one path, and then, you gotta zig and zag as people tell you what to do. So we'll be doing that art stuff. We'll start installing all the art through the rest of this year and next year, and hopefully by next summer, we'll be doing a ribbon cutting for that. The pickleball complex, we're looking at final design, and we'll bring the final design back to the park board really soon. What else we got? Brewer Recreation Center, the same situation. I think we have a large meeting on Thursday? Wednesday, okay. And from that is really going to kind of dictate some of the design that we're going to be working on. So just a lot of things going on.
When is the pickle, I know we can't say pickleplex, but I don't know what else to call it. When is that supposed to, projected to be open?
I'm hoping that it'll be all done by a year from now. So.
Anything else? No? Okay. And with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you so much for being here today, folks.